It's been longer than I wish since I've last uploaded a video to this channel. I have every intention to keep posting, but personally in the winter months I just tend to lose motivation, so lately I just haven't been keeping up with it. On a more positive note, however, as of me writing this script, the channel has 54 subscribers, but seemingly there's more every time I check. By YouTube standards, it's really nothing, but for me, that's quite a few people. I mean, that's like an auditorium full of people, in fairness. I want to extend my sincere thanks to family who have shared my videos on Facebook and otherwise supported me. It really genuinely means a lot to me. I just thought I should say that. Okay, let's talk about magic plants now. In the absence of modern biology, it would be hard to tell that plants are alive at all, if not for their ability to die. It should be no surprise, then, that animistic societies with a deep connection to nature believed that all the plants around them were endowed with spirits. This belief was universal until recent history. You can see it in North America, South America, you can see it in Southeast Asia. Nearly universally, there was animistic beliefs in plants, and that the medicinal properties from them could be attributed to some sort of magic. You would have a hard time finding any plant native to Europe that there wasn't an ancient spell, charm, or cure associated with. Many are still used today, but we no longer call it witchcraft, simply medicine. I wanted to make this episode about magic plants in general, but pretty quickly I noticed that that was way too broad, because you can find something magic about nearly every plant in the world. So for the sake of this video, we will discuss trees in particular, but I intend to discuss others on a later date. The phrase knock on wood comes from the belief that fairies live within trees, and that doing so, knocking on wood, will bring good luck to the knocker. Indeed, fairies live in plants, and that is why they are magic, according to Celtic myth. Iron kills fairies, and that's why plants should never be harvested with an iron tool, as it would negate their magic effect. There's an extremely ancient conception of the universe found in Europe and elsewhere in the world, where the universe is split into three realms: the sky, the earth, and the underworld, usually with a pillar intersecting the three, allowing transport between them. Usually a world tree represents the transport between. The heavens sit on its leaves, the underworld at its roots, and the world the ground between. In Germanic and Nordic mythology, this tree is the ash tree Yggdrasil, with three of each of the 9 worlds living in each of these realms. In Iceland, there was a very old law introduced around the time of the Christian takeover that outlawed talking to trees. There would be no reason for a law like this to exist unless people commonly spoke to trees back then. And given the animistic culture in ancient Europe and the belief that plants were thought to be endowed with spirits and magic, I don't think that this should be too surprising of a notion. In the Grimm's version of the story Cinderella, which I'm sure you're familiar with, at least the Disney version of, she talks to her deceased mother through a hazel tree that her grave sits at. When she talks to her fairy godmother, it's the disembodied specter of her mother who she communes with through a tree. And so this sort of subtly suggests and hints at an ancient form of ancestor veneration through the trees themselves. And it's possible that whatever remained of that, or whatever existed of that, existed in Iceland. Maybe that's what was outlawed. Different trees have a lot of different meanings and lore associated with them throughout Europe, though most of the information I have about plants comes from Scotland. The oak is widely respected and regarded as strong and wise. The word druid, as in a practitioner of ancient Celtic religion, is derived from the words oak-wise or oak-wisdom. Since mistletoe grows on the oak, it is regarded as equally sacred. And when I talk about other plants, I'm sure I'll learn about why you kiss under mistletoe. Hugging an oak tree is said to ensure easy childbirth, and when swearing an oath, it was traditional to say, by oak, by ash, and by thorn, because where oak, ash, and hawthorn trees meet, you are likely to see fairies. I've mentioned ash trees, which are associated with Yggdrasil. In the Highlands, it was traditional when a baby was born for the midwife to place a green ash stick in the fire, and as the sap boiled out of the end, it was gathered with a spoon, preferably silver, and fed to the newborn as its first ever food. I wasn't able to find why this is, but druids would also create healing wands out of this wood, and the ash was also used to cure rheumatism, fever, jaundice, and snake bites, so I would guess that the ash is a symbol of life and health. Rowan is a tree that keeps away black magic and evil. Decorating your home and animals with rowan protects them from witches and the evil eye. The evil eye is a curse that could be described as the embodiment of envy. I've discussed it before, so I won't dwell on it here, but I'll likely talk about it again. For whatever reason, specifically red thread was also associated with magic as well, and you see it popping up in a lot of charms. Bundling rowan with red thread, with 1 foot in the chimney crook, was said to be a powerful charm against black witchcraft, which could be tied to an animal's tail or left somewhere in the home. A sprig of rowan in your hat is good luck, and keeping some on your person wards away rheumatism. Coffins were built out of rowan to keep the dead from haunting the living, and on some holy days bannocks were baked on rowan wood, and during the festival of Beltane, which is it's a festival that happens in the spring associated with fairies mostly, wands of rowan were cut and placed on door lintels and in pockets. Rowan knives were used to gather magic herbs rather than iron, and berries of rowan were said to be eaten by the fairies. Wands cut from hazel trees could be used to dowse for gold, coal, lead, and lost or hidden objects. Somewhere at the bottom of the ocean is said to be the well of Conla. Conla, who was an ancient hero who got trapped in Tir na Nog. He thought he stayed there for a few months, but when he came back, hundreds of years had passed, and upon realizing this, he died instantly. But over this well of Conla at the bottom of the ocean somewhere, 9 hazel trees grow, and the nuts that fall from these trees are eaten by salmon. For each nut these salmon consume, they grow a spot. These salmon are known as the salmon of wisdom, and catching and eating one instantly turns one into a great poet, seer, or musician. In Slavic cultures, the birch is respected as a protective spirit. In ancient times, Slavic camps were surrounded by a grove of birch to ward away evil. In Scotland, they have much the same function. Birch trees were planted in graveyards to protect the dead, and birch rods or wands would be placed in a cradle or in a coffin to protect the young and the dead. Elder, which is a different tree than alder, I didn't know that, is a female protective spirit that will ward away evil so long as profound respect is shown to the tree. Sleeping under such a tree on Beltane or Halloween, you will see fairies. Dried elderberries placed on the windowsill prevent evil from entering. The handle of whips used by hearse drivers were once made of elder to keep ghosts away. Applying the juice of the inner bark to the eyelids gives one andahelach, or second sight, meaning you will see ghosts. There's a festival in May called Beltane, which I briefly mentioned. May Day may be somewhat of a remnant of that ancient festival. This day was associated with the fairy folk, and on that day, the 9 sacred woods were burned in a great bonfire. They were alder, elm, ash, hazel, hawthorn, birch, oak, yew, and willow. Beltane warrants a video of its own, and I know less than half of it half as well as it deserves, so I think I'll save it until closer to May. I could go on and talk about every tree in the world and every plant in the world. There's just some sort of mythology associated with virtually every plant. But these were just ones that I selected that I thought were particularly interesting, especially Hazel and the Salmon of Wisdom. I thought that was amusing. So I intend to make a sort of a continuation of this where I talk about just plants in general. But for now, that'll be all. Thank you very much.